Welcome back, pilots, to Squadrons Update. It's now been a week after the release of Squadrons back last Friday, and while we did have a Day 1 patch, folks were still experiencing plenty of issues here and there, which of course prompted Motive to get back to work on another patch, which we of course got yesterday, and while it helped improve a lot of the problems people were having, at the same time, there are still some issues left untouched, which means we're likely to be seeing yet another new patch drop in the coming weeks. But for today, we'll be taking a look at what yesterday's patch managed to fix, and as well see the current stats at how well this game is doing in its launch week, some of which may even surprise you. And before we get into any of that, but a quick reminder, as if you do like these type of videos, then do remember to give it a like to show your support for not only this update series, but also the content within it. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So I just wanted to quickly say that this past week has been incredibly busy for me, which explains why I'm doing this video today rather than yesterday. As some of you may know, I also do football journalism outside of YouTube, and with the transfer window deadline happening last weekend, plus a ton of exhibition and UEFA Nations League games happening this week, suffice to say I didn't exactly have time to play through all of Squadrons. I did manage to squeeze through the campaign, but I still need to try out fleet battles and online in general, so until I do that, my review of the game will understandably be delayed. So for those who asked about it, there's your answer right there. But with that said, of course many other people have managed to get a ton of time in Squadrons this week. And thanks to that, they were also able to spot out a lot of different bugs and glitches to report to Motive about. And fortunately, Motive were rather quick to respond to these reports and released patch 1.1 out to the wild yesterday. So let's take a quick look at the patch notes now, starting with Fleet Battle ranks, which according to Motive have fixed several issues where players were having with their ranks, such as not being correctly placed in a rank after finishing their initial placement matches, unable to do placement matches in general, and some people just abusing a glitch in the system to get a real high rank right out of the gate. These issues, however, after patch 1.1 should be eliminated by now, but there will be no rank resets, which some folks understandably aren't too thrilled about. Personally, I don't get why Motive wouldn't reset the ranks either, but I guess they have a reason not to do that, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out, maybe not. But for controls, Motive have added options in the menu called Controller Global Dead Zone and Flight Stick Global Dead Zone, which will now allow you to modify the dead zone individually for standard controllers and flight sticks. They also adjusted the default input curves for flight sticks, which should make controls feel more responsive. Dead zones in particular were a huge problem for HOTAS and VR users at launch, so this is great to see. And speaking about VR, some of the visual effects in VR mode have also been adjusted, specifically addressing the brightness and bloom when dropping bombs from your starfighter. Following that up, some other general bugs were also fixed. Like for example, the tutorial was glitched up pretty bad and wouldn't let you finish it at all, voice chat was bugging out, single player medals randomly getting removed, along with some other visual glitches in both single player and multiplayer. And I'll leave a link to the full list in the description below in case anyone does want to see it. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty good attempt for a first week patch, of course. That said, there are still some issues still left to be ironed out, like for example the 218 error that some people are getting, preventing them from being able to even play the game. Of which community manager Jay Ingram responded that Motive are still investigating what is exactly causing this error, so this is going to be fixed soon, but not now. Another person asked if the new dead zone options will address the reduced input when using the aviator control scheme, which Jay then replied that it does not, and it's a separate thing that Motive are looking into. And if you still weren't convinced of another patch coming out very soon from now, then when asked about a fix for high refresh rate monitors, Jay spilled the beans and said that yes, they still have more fixes planned in the pipeline. So if something is still feeling iffy right now, it's likely it could and will be fixed in the next patch, if it's been reported to Motive by now. And yeah, Squadrons launch week has been plagued with bugs, but as long as they're getting them fixed at a steady, quick pace, then it's not really that much of an issue. I mean, as long as these fixes aren't resulting in new bugs like DICE's patches always did, then I think we should be fine here. Jumping into the community side of things, but one Reddit user by the name of Paranoid made the rather helpful subsystem guide that I think will be handy for a lot of people out there. And according to Paranoid, Squadrons is all about team play, so they suggest knocking out the power of a flagship first above all. Because by doing so, you can open up weak spots for the rest of the match that your teammates can damage and cause a win without knocking out any other subsystem. But personally, I think targeting would be more important over power, as it's only a single target, and by taking it out, that immediately reduces the damage you and your team take when fighting the flagship. But then again, to be fair, I've also heard convincing arguments made for taking out the shields first too. So let's do this. Let me know down in the comments section on what your preferred strategy is when going after flagships and fleet battles, as I'm curious to hear what everyone's go-to target is. Moving on, but Motive also today put out a pretty cool infographic showing the state of the game right now, which I believe DICE also did with Battlefront 2 during its launch week as well. But yeah, it was cool to see back then, and it's surely great to see now too. Now, here's something interesting that I noticed in this infographic, but in the first week of Squadrons, only 15% of all players played in VR, which I have to say is somewhat surprising. And well, I guess you could also say embarrassing too, considering VR was one of the main selling points of the game, so this number is way too low. In addition to that, we were also shown which were the most popular ships for each faction, which was the X-Wing for the New Republic and the TIE Interceptor for the Empire. And this I certainly can't say I'm surprised to see, especially how good both of these two can be with the right loadouts. Another interesting stat that Motive is keeping tabs on is the amount of total drifts players are making online. And based on the number, it's honestly way more than I anticipated people would be drifting, at least this early on in the game's life cycle. But then again, let's just wait and see how these numbers will start looking like once people learn how to microdrift. And at this rate, it's probably gonna happen a lot sooner rather than later. But until the next time, this will do it for your Squadrons update. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to not only support it, but also keep up with Star Wars news, gaming, and canon lore released every week. And consider following me on Twitter and Facebook to never miss out on the latest Star Wars content. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.